idea. Thank
Well,
you.
I've been there, done that.
Love it.
So, okay, yeah. So I've been teaching law of attraction for about 12, well, geez, since 2002. And I got into that by, it was kind of my own search for a career that I like. That's really what was driving me, because I was a terrible employee at every job I was ever at. And I always thought, just because I guess I had an authority issue, and it really, everything I was trying to do was express myself creatively, whether that was in radio for a while, and then I got into computers and web design and things like that, to just be creative. And I just really wasn't finding that outlet. So I knew I needed to do something on my own, but every business I tried failed, regardless of how good it looked on paper. So anyway, that had me kind of looking for, well, why is nothing working for me? Why does this pattern keep showing up? And that's what kind of got me looking in the more metaphysical direction. And long and short of it is, I eventually found learn more about the law of attraction and the science behind how our experience of reality actually comes together, at an energetic level. And that's what I needed. I needed some science behind all of it, rather than just kind of like buying into a kind of a new age conversation. I didn't really have anything against it. It just, my brain needed facts, some science, in order for me to really fully embrace this and get any sort of results with it. So, but once that started, then I got very excited about it, and basically created the first iteration of my Wealth Beyond Reason program, which is basically our curriculum on the law of attraction and what it is and what it isn't and how to use it and all of that. And that was that program that had been floating around out there for about 3 years, that Rhonda Byrne, who produced The Secret, that's the one she found and said, I want this voice in my film, and kind of the rest is history there.
I love that. What year was that?
That was going to, what you mean, The Secret?
I remember when The Secret came out, but what year was it, would you say, that you really started to, seek that inside yourself?
That was 2002. In 1990, I had sort of, I guess you could just call it an event. It was like this eye-opening aha, sort of just out of nowhere got that everything is energy, right? Mm-hmm. But it was such a big thought, because I was like breaking it down into absolutely, everything was energy. And I just kind of was mulling that around in the back of my head for 10 years. I didn't, but in 2002 is when it really all came together, when I got super intentional about figuring this stuff out and doing something with it. So yeah, 2002, around September, actually.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, the year, and the reason I say that is because I had a near-death experience in 1997. I had been, I had been going through some struggles in my life. And, I was at that place in myself where I was, experiencing what I would call pain and suffering and struggle. And I started to ask the questions, why am I here? Is this all there is to life? Is this what we call joy or happiness? And, I had a near-death experience, and it was in that experience that, all the things that started to come out in 2002 about The Secret were given to me in this what I call this blessing, this amazing blessing in the light. But what I didn't realize at the time, that what I would call the consciousness of the world was not yet ready to hear the depth that had been shared with me in 1997. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle. And we were given, what's funny about, us connecting is because one of the things that had been said to me in the light was that I never had to worry, that all the right people would show up at the right moment to help me move forward. And literally, when I experienced this, coming back into the body, I didn't realize that I wasn't going to be that woman that day that I had been shown that I was meant to be. And so I just wanted to tell everybody. I wanted everybody to understand and know what I had been given. And we were approaching 2000, which was, Y2K and all that. And people thought I was nuts.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's actually, even before The Secret, when I was teaching this, I understood this stuff on a scientific point of view. So I could talk about it with people at that level, but I still was very uncomfortable with doing it. And even today, when I'm like in a social situation and they don't know who I am and they ask what I do, the whole conversation of the law of attraction is like, I almost don't even want to bring it up, because they've either heard of it and had, they've got their preconceived, they're either going to love it because they know it, or they're going to ask too many questions about it that I can't answer in a party situation. I start talking about, well, we create our lives by design, we attract things. And if they're not into that conversation, they're going to roll their eyes and, whatever. So it takes sometimes, especially a person who's kind of skeptical or whatever, it takes some time to give them the set the groundwork so that it doesn't have to sound so magical and woo and they don't look at you like you're crazy. But you're right, though, that there's definitely, even right around 2000 is when I started to notice also this massive shift in consciousness. And then The Secret definitely helped that, putting the law of attraction and the whole conversation out there, to millions of people who had never even heard of it before. So making it a little bit more mainstream and accessible to people. So it doesn't, there's some people who are still going to think that we're all crazy, but whatevs, right? So that's fine. At least we know what we're doing, and we can be deliberate creators, and we can create an experience of life that we really love.
I love that you really, hit on that. It really is not about what other people think. And, when we're sharing that part of ourselves and being present in the moment, aligned with what I like to call source energy, I've gotten to a place in myself where I'm very aware if something's showing up that's uncomfortable. I look at it as, okay, either how can I shift this? Or secondly, I ask that part of me to share it in a way that, somebody's seeking or ready to receive.
So when you're saying that, when you're feeling discomfort, because I want to understand what you just said. Certainly looking for a way to shift it, but explain what you just said again.
Well, so what I have been able to come to within myself is, as I mentioned in the beginning, I struggled because I wanted to tell people the story. I wanted everybody to have the joy and the understanding and the passion that I had. But at the same time, when people were showing up in my moments and they were skeptical, or, they were thinking I was nuts, or they were connected to fear. Now what I realize is that was a part of myself that was afraid.
Got it. Yes. Absolutely. That's a good point. The people who would show up, like when I first started this as a business, basically, and was selling my program, the people I attracted first were very much, because it was a new conversation to me, and I had just come out of a lot of shaky beliefs and shaky situation with money and stuff. And those are the people I tended to attract, so it showed me what I was still kind of putting out there and what was I aligning with. And I got really clear, this is not the kind of customer / student or whatever that I want to attract. It's too hard work. They're not, they just feeling sorry for themselves or whatever. But it helped me to see, well, what's going on in here? How can I realign? What, it made me realize, I never took the time to even create my ideal customer in my head. It was just like, at that point, it's like, everybody buy it, that kind of thing. And, you realize in business, that's really not everybody is your perfect customer. And it's really better or customer or coworker or all the people in your life. It's about finding the right people who align with you, support you in your vision, and make the process of being who you are fun and not a lot of work,
Yeah. I want to mention to our listeners that we'd really love to have you join in on some questions. So if you do want to ask some questions of Bob while we're having this conversation, please press /Q space in the send a message section and ask your question, and I'll bring it on the show so that he can answer it for us. And I just wanted to get started. Really, I want to delve into the beginning. And I really, my whole thing about Whole Life Living TV is really to share simple conversations that shift, expand, and vibrate your life. How to vibrate from a higher frequency, a higher vibration in which we are pulling to us and attracting to us, what's resonating with us from that place of our higher self. So one of the things I jotted a bunch of questions because, like anything else, we want to hear your perspective and from your standpoint, simple ways that you've come to understand from yourself. And so what are some simple steps to begin transforming your life that, people can start with right now?
Okay. So I think that really our lives, I hesitate to use the word should ever, but can be driven by a vision of something that is, that you're truly passionate about, a vision of a life where you get to be fully who you are, contributing, everything that you have, living in abundance, living with happiness, living with love, living with joy, all of those things, create that vision. A lot of times we get so stuck on what's going on today and the problems that we're having that we don't really allow ourselves to create this vision. And the purpose of the vision is to shift your vibration, to expand, to bring into your life a different possibility. The vision creates, when you get into this vision and you align with it and you feel the emotions of it, that's creating your vibration, which is then bringing that vision or the feelings associated with it into your experience of reality. If you don't have that vision, then, you're kind of stuck on what is right now. And if that's where your emotions are, if you're stuck on, oh, I've got this problem, I got that problem, I don't feel good or whatever, that's what you're putting out. You're basically attracting more of that until you can shift into a different vision that makes you feel overall differently. So that's the very first step, is to take the time to create that vision that is truly inspiring to you. Not a vision of, I want to get out of this situation. It's not about focusing on solving a problem. It's about, what do you truly want? What would make you jump out of bed in the morning and just be filled with joy and all of those things? Because until you have that vision, you're not going to realize it, right? So if you just have to understand that from just a logical point of view, but also at an energetic point of view, if your focus is on what's wrong, then that's creating a vibration of, this is what is, and the universe will always match that. The universe isn't trying to predict what you'd rather like. That's up to you. You get to create that, right? So that's the first step, is to take the time to create this vision. And I always say to people, and they're probably tired of me saying this, but if you can answer the question, why must I do this? Then you're on the right track to a vision. Because if you can't answer that question, then when things get tough, and they will, and when resistance shows up, which it will, you don't know, there's not the why isn't strong enough. I mean, I know you come from a fitness background, and you know how important the why is when you're dealing with, like, physique transformation, for example, because I came from that world as well. And that was when I really learned about how powerful that why really is. And it's not, it wasn't about fitting into jeans, right? It was about, I have for me to be able to be who I am and to give what I have in the world, to give what I'm here to give in the world, I need to make shifts in my body or my physique or my health this way, right? So you have that strong why. And same thing is true with the rest of your life. If you've got a vision, you need to be able to answer the question why, because it'll be really easy to get knocked off course. Or if somebody comes in and says, well, you're not going to be able to do that kind of stuff. And if you don't have a strong enough reason, you'll probably back off of it, and you won't realize it. So I know that was a long, long answer to a very simple, what's your first step? But yeah, that creative vision is a piece that people skip. They think, they go after the money, the dollar amount, or that one relationship, or that house. They piecemeal their reality creation, and that can create problems. What you want is a vision that's all encompassing, that really has everything. So it does take time, and we're not, we weren't brought up and trained to dream that big and to have those types of visions. That's just not the way our society and our education system works. It's very myopic, and it doesn't, but this way, but we all have the choice to do that at any time. So that's my first invitation to everybody on this blab, is to get that vision, something that truly, truly inspires you, and build in everything, your abundance, your health, your emotional state, everything every aspect of how you want to feel. And that, once you even do that, you're going to start seeing things shift, because you're going to be putting out a different vibration, and things will respond to that vibration. You may see things that weren't serving you fall away. Relationships that weren't serving you, or, jobs or something like that. You're going to see new opportunities. You're going to get new intuitive nudges. I mean, things will just shift as a result of you creating a vision that truly inspires you.
And I love the way, and the reason I asked it is because you commonly hear from people, that they don't know what their vision is. When you say, okay, people say, well, I don't know what my purpose is, and I don't even know how to get there. And then, when you start asking them questions, about, why would you do anything? They go into that whole excuse thing is I don't know what my why is.
Yeah.
and then they're struggled in that, you know. And I'm a life mastery coach with Mary Morrissey, and she said, coupled with why, you should be asking yourself, is your vision worthy of you? Is it worthy of you?
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing that I get constantly from people, even with my own clients, you know, when they start out from the beginning, and whether they know about this or this is new to them, the one thing they struggle with is, you know, they're talking about how they have 1,000 thoughts a day. Okay. And something negative shows up and in the moment, and they're like, okay, so how do I shift that from negative to positive and then still believe and trust enough that things are going to change? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so that was a lot. So let me hit a couple of those things. Um, yes, we have a lot. We have these negative thoughts. A lot of times it's about observing. I mean, what's really going to help us to shift in our lives is to be able to get out of being in and upset or whatever, and be able to observe what's going on. Like you said, something negative happens, or I have a negative thought. Like taking a minute. Why is this a negative thought? First of all, what is it about this thought that's negative, and what actually about this thought is the thing that's giving me this feeling? All of that just to start showing patterns or whatever. Like, oh, I see, I get upset about being late, or I get upset about these types of things. And then you can kind of look and say, I wonder where that came from. It's like kind of just dissecting what's going on inside you energetically, so that then you can say, you know what, that isn't even me. That I got that from my mom, or I got that from so and so. You know, that's not even my belief. And then you can just let it go, or start the process of letting it go using, you know, any number of release techniques or things like that. You know, and also know, I mean, a lot of people get stuck on the negative stuff, like they think something's wrong. Oh no, I had a negative thought. Look, we all have this wide range of emotion. It's all there for a reason. You know, we weren't built accidentally with the ability to feel negative emotion. There's a reason that it's there. So it generally just tells us we're out of alignment with something or whatever. There's a message, there's an opportunity, there's really a gift in all of our resistance if we know how to act on that. You know, take it as the gift that it is. Oh, okay, I'm out of alignment in this area. I'm going to be intentional about getting back into alignment with that. But again, we aren't taught to do that. And so we just get stuck in it, and we go, oh, this happens to us all the time. And it just really reinforces the whole pattern of it happening.
Well, we have a couple questions here that I want to take the time to answer around what you've been sharing with us. And we have a question from John Seeley. And I know you know John Seeley.
Yeah. Hey, John.
He's asking, what if you keep attracting something or someone that you don't want?
Oh, or something. Or someone. I said something of someone, and I couldn't.
Yeah, something or someone that you don't want.
Yeah. Okay. So you are in alignment with it if it keeps happening. Okay. Otherwise it couldn't happen. So it's really about, okay, well, why am I still in alignment with this? Now, a lot of times it may be, and again, this could be the reason for it. It could be as unique. It could be different for everybody and the different situation. You know, like I would need to know, well, what is this person, or what is it that you keep attracting, and where does that come from? And what are your thoughts and feelings about it? You know, because if you also, and I know this seems like a catch-22, but if you have a conversation with yourself that says, I keep attracting something or someone that I don't want, you are just basically reaffirming that it is that you are, and you will continue to do it. It seems like so there's one thing to make the observation, hey, I see a pattern here, but that's the opportunity to change the conversation with yourself. That that instead of saying, oh, I always do this, why do I always do this? This is again where a situation where you've got your focus on the problem and you're wondering why it's not going away. You know, so it's really about saying, okay, well, this is happening. I don't want to focus on this. Instead, I want to focus on the types of people that I do want to bring into my life, and create that vision strong, and put all my attention there and see what happens. If you, a lot of times it's about honoring yourself. If someone keeps coming into your space, a certain type of person, you need to set boundaries. Like if it's not okay that this person is being how they're being in your space, you need to, either remove yourself from that somehow so that you don't come into contact with that person, or, again, set boundaries with this person. I was just having a conversation on another blab about this thing about how, setting boundaries with people who they may know you, like when you first met them, maybe you got together and complained about things or bitched about, oh, this, that, and the other thing. But now you've changed. You've got a vision of something better. You don't want to be that anymore, right? So now you're being a different way, and it's going to be this person is a friend. So now you're torn. Do I let this person go out of my life, or what do I do? So in my case, which this definitely happened to me, you know, I had a friend who would go down these negative roads, and I guess I used to go down them with them. You know, we just complain about stuff. But then it got to be like not okay, you know, and I just finally said, you know what? I'm not having this conversation with you ever again, you know. So if you need to have it, you're just going to have to understand that I'm leaving the room, or I'm doing whatever. It was a while there I didn't answer the phone, you know, until they got it, right? And that's okay. You know, you deserve to be able to set boundaries in your own life, even if it upsets somebody else. We're not here, believe it or not, to make other people happy or to make them comfortable. And when we start playing a big game, if we've never done that before, I promise you, the people who you have been attracting up to that point, that some of them will get uncomfortable with watching you think big because they're not ready, right? So that I know that just addressed a couple of relationship related things, but you know, if you keep attracting someone or something, you got to look at, well, how am I allowing this to happen?
Let me ask you one more question around that. So let's just say, what if you have someone that has been involved with you in business and they were really on your bandwagon? Say you're out in the limelight and you're teaching these sorts of things that you and I are teaching. And on a lot of levels, they want to bring in those controlling elements. Let's say they're a sponsor or something like that. And they want to bring in these controlling elements, and then you set boundaries, just like you said. And we're talking very clear and direct boundaries. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you're wishing them well, but then they still don't get it. And they keep coming back and trying to inflict on you the idea that you're not good enough, that you'll never be successful, you know, that sort of thing. Would you say that would be thoughts going on? Like, let's say that was me. Let's use me as an example. Would you say those are thoughts going on inside myself, that I'm not going to be successful, or I'm afraid of maybe what this person could do out there to me?
I would say that there's probably something, but again, those people wouldn't be in your life if you weren't in alignment with them somehow. It's not about wanting them there or anything like that. It's just that somehow you've got that going on. And yes, it could be an outward extension of some other I'm not good enough type of thing. My way isn't good enough kind of thinking that may be going on in your mind. And I would just invite, and how does that feel to you? I mean, if you ask yourself that question, does that seem like, yeah, I mean, a lot of this is so much about being able to be brutally honest with yourself, because if you're not, then, you know, you're not going to be able to do the tough work if you don't look at, well, maybe I do have this belief. And how does that feel? Like, you'll know, because if they come at you and do that, if you have any sort of feeling of self-doubt as a result of what they say, then you know absolutely you've got something going on in there. Because if they said it and you were absolutely 100% in your power, very, very clear, it would just roll off you. There would be no emotional response except, you know, well, they're wrong, you know. But if you start to feel that little, you know, then yeah, I think there's something in there to look at. And again, that's one of those gifts that comes along and say, wow, I've got that to work on. I'm going to do that, you know, so that this doesn't happen anymore. So they're there for a reason. You're having the feelings that you're having for a reason, and it's an opportunity to grow.
Love it. Now we have another question, and I believe it's from Q Baby NZ, and they are asking, how to prevent keeping on track when you have kids and family always draining you?
How to prevent keeping on track, or I guess how do you keep on track when you've got all this energetic drain? Well, it is about, a lot of life is about managing your energy and prioritizing yourself. I just did a Periscope on this not too long ago about self-care and what you need. You know, when you've got kids and a family and people who you are obligated to, you still have to put yourself first in order to be able to bring the best you to that table. You know, you're not serving the kids and family and stuff like this if you're exhausted or draining or not taking care of yourself. Not, you know, you want to be an example of how you'd like your kids to be, right? So, you know, they need to see you taking care of yourself, so that they will then take care of themselves and see the value of that. They need to see you doing what you love and being, you know, living a life of passion, so they know that they can do that for themselves as well. So if you need to say no to some things to take care of yourself, then you do that, because you'll want your kids to do that too. You'll want your kids to learn how to take care of themselves, because, you know, I've seen the devastating effects of what happens when you don't do that. As a parent who teaches complete, you know, I've seen parents who are so selfless that they They don't even take care of themselves, and then they can't be the parent that they want to be in their head. They think they're doing a good job because there's all this time. Look, I'm giving all of my time and energy to this job of parenting, and yet I'm not happy. I'm tired. I feel ill. I'm, got no energy and all of that, and I don't have a dream. We should all, regardless of how big our family is and what our obligations are, we should still have a vision that we're working towards that can include all of them, right? But don't stop dreaming for yourself just because now you've got other people to take care of. It does not serve them ultimately.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. Now, I have some questions that some people brought to the forefront before we began the show today. And one of the question was, as a featured teacher in The Secret, many people misunderstood the message of the law of attraction. They thought they would think a thought and all the things they desired would show up. People did not realize it was the feeling, the frequency, or the vibe they were feeling connected to the thought that was actually creating what was showing up. What do they need to know about this?
Okay. Well, yes, everything. Well, so it goes back to the whole everything is energy thing. I mean, we could talk for quite a while about the energetic nature of the universe and vibration and all, and resonance and what, what resistance is all about and all of that. And that the law of attraction is not all about us attracting stuff. The way that I talk about the law of attraction, it's really about how the universe comes together for us as human beings, how energy is actually attracting to create our experience of reality. Why is this solid? Why is this a gas? Why is this water? I mean, it's just really super uber complex. But for us, all we need to know is that we are here and we've been given these gifts that are specifically there so that we can create our reality. We've got our imagination, we have our emotions, we have our intuition, and all of these things working together allow us to create a vision, feel it before we've actually experienced it, thus sending out this vibration, literally a vibration, which the universe goes to match, in every moment, in real time. It doesn't mean that the thing is going to appear right away that you say that you want, but when you get into that emotional feeling and really fine tune that vibration, that's when the intuition, the communication back from the universe basically says, okay, here's your next step. Now it could be, write that book, write that article, call this person, go over here, do, whatever, you get these intuitive nudges of action to take, but it is a dance. It is not like, here I want this thing, bing, here I want this thing, bing. It can't occur that way, depending on your level of resistance and what the thing is and how efficiently the universe can deliver it to you. But I maintain that the universe will always deliver your vision in the most efficient way possible based on what your current belief system is. What will your energy system allow? And it may be that you've got some resistance to work through, some limiting beliefs to work through before it can happen in a really quick way. So given that you may get this one step to take that moves you a little bit closer to believing that it could actually happen, whatever. The point is you've got to act on that intuition. If you basically ask the universe for something, you have to be willing to listen to the response and then take action on it. And it's not like if you don't take action on the thing, it's not like you'll never get it, because as long as you keep going back to this state where you're in the attraction mode of it, something else will occur, some other intuitive nudge. But if you never take action on anything, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, and it's just the soul's like a cog on the wheel that just keeps spinning, saying yes, 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 yes. And people don't realize that it can go in either direction. It can go in the direction of what you truly, wish in your life, or it can go in the other direction, the direction of the contrast.
Yeah, you're right. It's all, the universe always says yes, and that's that's a very popular Abraham distinction too. It's always saying yes. You're saying, I don't have this, I don't deserve this. Yes, that's correct. You do not have it and you do not deserve it. I deserve this and I have it. Yes, you do. Right. So it's all of that. Knowing that's really super important, because that gets right back into the being honest with yourself. What am I really communicating out there? It is one thing to walk around and say, oh yeah, I believe in the law of attraction and here's my vision board and here's the thing. And be outwardly saying all the right things. But what's going on underneath is what's super important. I mean, this outside stuff and building, that's a temporary vibration. It's a little hit, yes. But if it's not your predominant vibration, you're going to experience what you're predominantly vibrating. And a lot of that happens at the subconscious level. So you have to be willing to look at the tough stuff, right? Where are you limited in your thinking? And I'm telling you, it's virtually everybody out there, no matter where they are or how great they are at the law of attraction, how successful they are, they've got some areas where there's a little bit of resistance. We can all constantly be working on that. And to the degree that we do, we'll get closer and closer to the things that we really want and have an experience of life that we, love more than we don't love.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let me take a moment to mention to all of our listeners, if you would like to ask a question of Bob, please put /Q space into the send message section, and we will receive your question. Also, please share this on Twitter and on Tell Your Aunt Facebook. It's over in the left-hand portion of your screen. Once again, thank you for all joining in to Whole Life Living TV show. And our guest is featured speaker and teacher in the movie The Secret, Bob Doyle. And now let's move into really the subject that a lot of us want to hear. And okay, so we know about the law of attraction, but we want to truly live this joyous, happy, fulfilling life. And we've heard from most philosophers that have ever come to the planet, and, our Jesus, our Buddha, and the Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra, all of them, what do they say? Be present in the moment, live in the moment, because this is where our true power exists. So, how do we live a passionate, boundless life and live in an inspired action on a daily basis, being present?
Yeah. So many of us are not present that we don't even know what it feels like. Like there's people who are they're never present. They're always worrying about the future or fretting about the past or whatever. They're always somewhere else but right now. You can't be present and in this moment and have fear and worry and all of that other stuff now, but it's all an illusion. The future and the past, when you get into the quantum physics of it, there is only now. There is only this moment, and projecting over here or back there, it's an illusion, and it creates all sorts of feelings that are based on things that aren't true. It's hard to explain, but being present is oddly, it's our natural state, and we've gotten all completely off of it. So learning how to be present, and I will tell you that this was one of the toughest things for me as I went through my journey about being present, because I had grew up learning about, just worrying. I just worried all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I was always worried about money. I was worried about something was going to go wrong. What is it? And so learning to be present was very challenging for me, because it seemed counterintuitive to not think through problems. It seemed like, well, it seems irresponsible not to worry about this thing, but that's just what I was taught. There's no truth in that. It's just, that's what I was taught. So learning just a few basic techniques to get yourself present and getting into the habit of checking in with yourself. Hey, am I present? Even just doing that, even asking yourself, am I present right now, will bring you into the present, because now you have to be there to check in and ask that question. There's other things you can do. And they're so simple, like really just just stop and start looking at your environment and just really seeing what you're seeing, and hearing what you're hearing and smelling what you're smelling. Like bring yourself into this moment and look at 5 things you can see. Listen to 5 things you can hear, like bring yourself right here. And you'll see that when you're doing that, everything else goes away. All the fear about this or the worry about that, it all goes away, because you're just being here and you just got the moment. And this is where everything happens, is in this moment. Your vibration is being sent out right now, not being sent out 5 seconds from now. It's being sent out right now. So all the creating you're doing is happening in the present. And every moment that you're not in the present, you don't know, all bets are off, because you don't know. It isn't even real. So what you're trying to do in terms of like your vibration, that's why we say bring it into the now, not one day I'll have this. You say, I have this now. Again, it seems counterintuitive, because it doesn't, we're logical in our thinking. We're like, what do you mean I have it now? I don't have it now, right? It's not, I don't have, see, it's not here. But the thing is that when you understand the quantum physics and the fact that really every possibility is happening right now, it's mind-boggling. But it's just a matter of, well, how do I bring myself into energetic alignment with the now that is what I want? And that's what we're doing here. So that's why all of your visualization, all of this has to bring you into an experience of having it now, not in 5 years, or not when I deserve it more, or not when this or that happens, or not when they say it's okay, right? But just right now. And it's not about lying to yourself, because it is happening right now somewhere. And what your work is to shift yourself energetically into alignment with that. And that may show up as taking action and doing things, and this illusion of going through time, that this is this construct that we've created as human beings to navigate our experience of reality, this past and future thing. But just realizing, though, that everything is just happening now. And again, that's something that it took me a long time. So I don't know how long it takes the average person to go from being completely scattered and not present to being able to be present. But I would say that I'm going to sneeze here in a second. Anything that can help you learn how to be in the present, whether that's reading books from Eckhart Tolle or whoever else that inspires you around being present, it's time well spent.
Yeah, I really like what you're sharing as far as, living in the moment. One of the things that Abraham brings up is to go broader a little bit in the moment. When you talked about observing and observing what's showing up, like let's use money, for example, is what somebody wants in their lives, and they're fixated on money, but the opposite is what's showing up, meaning lack, limitation, scarcity, you name it. And one of the things I love that she teaches people to do is to go broader with it. So if it's abundance that they're seeking, wow, when I walk outside, I feel the expansiveness of the air everywhere. I feel, the birds and the trees that are everywhere. She says, go broad, because that'll help you to shift from what she calls your habitual way of thinking, usually in a direction that you can't have it or can't see it, or it's not here right now. And in order to connect on a broader perspective.
Yeah. And money is the number one thing like that. People just can't, because they've attached money with abundance, and obviously there's a million reasons why, but there's way more abundance in the universe all around us that has nothing to do with money. So, I think the point of that is to feel abundance in general, not just monetary abundance, to feel that we are absolutely surrounded by abundance. And my friend Christy Whitman, do you know who Christy is? Okay. So she talks about, and we were talking about this on a thing we did recently, that even when we're experiencing what we call lack, it's really an abundance of lack that we're experiencing. Everything is abundant. There is a never-ending supply of everything, including the feeling of lack. Okay. So it's really just, if you're fixated or attached, which is the bad word in all of this, is when you're attached to something, because that's really saying that it's saying a lot of things, but it's all about lack. It's all about I don't have, right? So when you're fixated on money, feeling that money is the only answer, then what's built into that is it's the only answer to all these problems I have related to money. So you're really looking at money as this necessary kind of evil to fix these problems. And so you're just and so you may be thinking, well, I'm focused on money all the time, but what you're really focused on is the lack of it, and you're getting that in abundance, right? So so if you can remove the feeling of abundance from just money, and like you said, go outside and just see that, wow, abundance is everywhere. Like this whole idea of lack is completely an illusion, but we will sometimes experience lack, but it's really an abundance of lack. If you can get that, if that can click for you, it's big.
It's like, I don't know if you've ever read any Neville Goddard. Have you read Neville Goddard?
Yeah, well, enough that I'm familiar, and I know he's way into the feeling it now and the feeling. Yeah.
And one of the things that he brings up too is the imagination, and to think from the place that something is already so. Think and feel from the place that something is already so. So, using that example, being present in the moment, I was able to shift a diagnosis in which I had a massive heart attack delivering twins right before 40. And one of my babies was born without a throat and, hemivertebrae and all kinds of other medical issues. 1 week later, I had a massive heart attack, total congestive heart failure. And they came back and they said that, I could die within 6 months without a heart transplant. And, obviously I have been studying, these principles. I was a licensed practitioner, and I knew that I was not going to connect to the diagnosis of what I call dis-ease, because I knew that there was a reason that was showing up in front of me. So ultimately, really what I did is I did a couple things. One is I never spoke to people about sickness or illness. Mm-hmm. I was aware in the moment when people showed up to maybe ask me those questions, and I would say, you know what, I appreciate, you asking or inquiring, but let's talk about how I'm going to outweigh the odds, how I'm going to persevere, how I'm going to win. And then the other thing that I did was I utilized affirmative prayer and visualization. So I would go into my imagination and I would see my heart functioning and pumping at its highest capacity. I'd feel it. I would see the arteries flowing with blood perfectly. And I could even see, thinking back on it now as we're talking, I could even see the cells, regenerating. And I acted as if. So I was told that I couldn't exercise and, I'd be on my back waiting for this transplant. But I exercised anyway. Now, I didn't go crazy and, do things that were going to hurt me, but I definitely acted as if everything was perfectly fine and normal. Yeah. And of course, my doctor, he thought, he's like, this is all woo-woo, airy-fairy thinking, and that we need to look at this realistically. But, I'm a very silly, playful girl. So, I made a game of it and tried to, bring in different insights. But to make a really long story short, literally within 3 years, I healed to 100%. And in the last 6 months, I just had my regular yearly heart tests and was told that they can't show signs of me ever having had any heart attacks. And I've had 2.
Wow. Well, see, and you hear stuff like that all the time. And the distinction that you made clearly is that you really were focused on, you really were using your visualization just right. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were truly focused on solution and seeing that, not fixing a problem so much. You were just looking at a healthy heart. You were visualizing all of these things. And we all have this ability, to a great degree. And I can say this too, that when you were in that visualizing, you were super present, right? Like you were really there seeing it then. So you were creating a very powerful communication with the universe that says, I'm good, And when you went ahead and exercised anyway, you said, well, I didn't go crazy, mm-hmm. because if you had gone crazy, probably a little bit of resistance would have shown up. Like, I really shouldn't be doing that. And then you kind of undo all the stuff that you were doing. So you did it smart. You were listening to your body. You were in communication with your body, and now it is done what it's done. And they shows no signs. That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I know. And it has really helped me to even get to where I am right now. Over the last year, one of the things that has really popped up for me is truly with the true desire to be present in the moment and to really, like you said, observe what's showing up. And I have a little question that I ask myself, all the time. So if something shows up that is not in alignment or doesn't feel good, I no longer attach to it. I simply look at it and say, you know what is it I really want? What I really want is to travel around the world and help people of all ages discover their own greatness. Woo, that feels good. So as I'm connecting with the feeling of what I truly desire as I'm speaking it, I'm now shifting myself even more into that present and of alignment of what I truly seek and desire rather than what I don't want.
And that behavior is a habit now, mm-hmm. for you. Mm-hmm. And if you're a person who does not have that habit, like you are habitually negative, even though you're not, you may not walk around a negative person, but your brain goes to what could go wrong first, which is, it's very common now because it's just, news, TV, everything. Mm-hmm. We're subconsciously, unconsciously trained to be like that. And so making the choices that you're making is going to feel really weird for people at first. I mean, it's just, if you're not into that, to find the bright side on this or focus mm-hmm. on whatever it feels, your ego is going to scream at you and it's going to feel weird and icky and whatever. But again, if you can step back and look at it and go, well, what possible benefit is there in my going down the negative road? What is what is the benefit and what's the downside of going positive, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can be logical with yourself to your benefit, but the first reaction for some people is, it's thinking positively seems illogical,
Mm-hmm.
because that's your habitual way. That's just how you've operated your whole life. But now, what we're saying is we're inviting you to take on a different way of being. But it is a habit, and it's going to
Mm-hmm.
take a while to form and to feel natural. So if you can commit to that, shifting into the positive for the next 21 days, or making a practice of it, let those new neural pathways form and let your neuroplasticity kick in and your brain can change, and then you'll see the benefits in your life, because now you've shifted your vibration to a completely different communication, and so your experience of life is going to be completely different.
It's funny because I have found for myself the easiest way to describe people, that to people and changing habits is it's like brushing your teeth. You form the habit of brushing your teeth every day, and people can really connect and attach to that. Okay, so why can't you form the habit of only looking in the direction of good and greater good? Because there's a million avenues, channels, and opportunities that can reveal your how. So if you train your mind to seek only that, I mean, it literally starts to show up in your moments.
Right. And it is a training process,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and but it's so worth doing, because what's the alternative? Right. And people
mm-hmm,
just don't think about, oh, I'm just this way, I'm always going to be this way, this is how I think, this is how I'm always going to think. Okay, well, if you insist, right? But
mm-hmm,
you learned to think that way, and you can learn to think another way. And all of the thinking and the ways you've been doing it has presented the situation that you're in right now. And if you're not liking this situation right now, it's time to go inside and go, okay, well, what habits, what thinking habits can I change? And if I don't know how to change them, go seek help to change them. Get some coaching or read a book or do something,
mm-hmm.
but get intentional, because you see the benefit of it. And that's why when you get into if you can create that vision where you say, why must I do this? And it becomes bigger than you, and your
Mm-hmm.
heart swells every time you think about it, right? Then all that work or whatever, it becomes worth it, because if you don't shift the way you're thinking, you'll never get that thing. But you have to get that thing, because you can answer, why must I do this? It's not an option not to get it. So if this type of thinking is clearly not going to get you there, then you have to give it up, because you got to get there.
I have a question from someone who says know versus believe. What is the difference?
Huge. Who is that? Who said that?
I had somebody pre-ask me before the show who sent it to me on Facebook.
So this was a distinction that I got from one of my mentors, Andy Shaw. And it's so huge, because there is belief and then there's knowing, and they're actually worlds apart energetically. People will walk around espousing their beliefs all day long, and they don't really know they're true. They like to, oh, I believe in the law of attraction, is so different than I know the law of attraction is a real functioning thing. Belief actually insinuates some doubt. And you can look at, I hesitate to use this example, but it's a perfect example when it comes to religion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, things like that. People have religious beliefs, and a lot of people don't have knowing, right? They believe it, but you can look at what they say their beliefs are, and look at their actions and go, well, if you knew what you're saying is true, there's no way you'd be doing that, right? What I'm saying. So it's energetically, it's a big difference. So that's why, when I teach the law of attraction, the very first thing I do is teach the science piece, so that they don't have to believe it, they know it, right? And that's, again, energetically is a whole different thing in terms of bringing something to you immediately, or having what you want. If you know it's going to happen, then it'll happen. If you believe it's going to happen, it might happen. It's going to take a little longer. So it's really it's a very, very powerful distinction. Now, I know that a lot of people will say the word believe, and they, what they mean is no, but they should say no. If they really know it, they should say know it rather than believe it. It's just, once you really get that distinction, belief really does sound like a very weak word. It just doesn't have the same energy behind it. It's not nearly as powerful a word as knowing.
Now, what about bringing expectation into the factor?
Well, expectation is linked with knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's up to the individual. I mean, look, there's an expectation that comes from knowing, and then there's an expectation that comes from believing, and it's not the same, because there's that it's a lot of talk, well, I'm just going in there and I expect this to happen, and then, but a lot of times that expectation is almost like a test. I'm testing the universe out. I expect this to happen. Let's see if it does. Right? So that's a lot different than, well, when you know it's going to happen, you don't have to sit there and think about it all day long. You don't have to be obsessed with it. You don't have to attach to it. You don't have to do any of that stuff because it's going to happen at exactly the right time. You just put it out there and you forget about it. You don't have to obsess over it. And a lot of times when you get into the expectation thing or whatever, it's really more of a noticing that it's not there yet. I'm expecting it. It's going to come any day now. But right now, what you're looking at is it's not here yet. So ideally, you just want to know it's going to come and move on.
Now, somebody asked me to ask the question, how can we utilize the power of our mental faculties? They say we've heard about these mental faculties, and how can we utilize that power of those in order to get clear about our vision, passion, and purpose?
I think it's going to take care of itself. I wouldn't get too caught up in how can I just guess. The whole thing with the vision thing is if you're having trouble with it now, it's probably just because you give up too soon. It might be a challenge at first. It might sit down and write, just free flow what your vision is. And don't worry about it being wrong or not big enough or whatever. Just let it evolve. And I think you'll work through all that mental faculty stuff. It'll just open up for you anyway. Like, I don't want people to get too obsessed with what's wrong with my brain? How can I make my brain better? And just really just settle into the fun of creating a vision and let that other stuff work itself out. That's kind of my advice on that one.
So using so many of the things that you have shared here today, what are some ways that we can pay attention to the intuition so that we know which action steps to take?
Okay. So first of all, if you've never listened to your intuition before and have no clue what we're talking about or how it would even do it, which was my situation, I knew about intuition. I didn't know what it felt like, sounded like, I didn't know. But when I made the decision that I was going to start listening for and acting upon my intuition, at that point I said, well, I'm just going to look for something that's maybe a little different. That's not my habitual way of thinking. It's not I got to figure this out, or it's not the negative, what could go wrong. I'm going to, I'm going to put out a vision and I'm going to just see what shows up for me in terms of a thought. And if it's the least bit unusual or sounds like fun, or maybe what would happen, or curiosity is sparked or something, I'm going to take action on that. So, and then just see where it leads me. And that's exactly what happened. And it led me exactly where I needed to go. And it really wasn't that hard. It was just like, well, it was a game. I'm just going to take all this weird action. And really, truly, when that path started, it made no sense. My first intuitive, the way that my intuition started talking to me at the very beginning of my journey in no way insinuated to me that I was going to get to where I wanted to go. But it showed up, and I thought, well, I said I was going to follow this, and then it did. So it just basically was around a series of conversations, which led me to a place, which led me to talk to a guy who led me to a book, which then turned on all the lights, right? But I had to take that first step of just following my intuitive nudge to go talk about this thing with this person, right? And then that led me down that path. If I had tried to figure out, well, why would I do that? No, I'm not going to do that because that doesn't make any sense, and wait, it would have taken me a lot longer to get where I was. And as it turned out, things happened really super quick.
It's funny you say that, because something as simple as, I'm over 50, which, I'm pretty proud about. But this last year, I've been going through menopause. Yay!
Yay! That's awesome. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Anyway, so I've been experiencing some of the traditional menopause experiences, where they've discovered that I was severely anemic, so obviously I had the energy drain, and then some back issues. And so, I believe the quality of questions you ask yourself determines the quality of life you live. So I started asking myself, okay, what is it I'm seeking to understand here? What is it that's seeking to emerge from me? Okay, awareness around something. But ultimately, though, I kind of practiced some of the same little steps we were doing, but knowing, when you talk about knowing, I knew that there was an answer that was going to show up, and I expected an answer to show up. And interestingly enough, I had somebody contact me to be on the show. a well-known doctor in California. And guess what? He specializes
Right.
in that. So I just kind of laughed and giggled about it, and of course, clapped my hands and like,
Yep. Gotta love that. Right. Celebrating that, knowing that it was going to come and all that. And we can all do our lives like that. I mean, that's the thing. It can really be that seemingly magical. It seems magical, but it's actually very scientific if you're willing to look at it like that. But a lot of stuff that's very scientific seemed like magic at first, right? There's a lot of stuff that we look at that we take totally for granted that is all very scientific and logical now because we understand how it works. So it doesn't seem magical anymore. But now we're just talking about things that we as a species we haven't all figured it out exactly yet. And a lot of us need to know exactly how everything works before we'll even let it be a part of our experience. And in the law of attraction conversation, it isn't essential that you know how it all works. But for those of you who need to know how it all works before you can get anywhere, that's why I do what I do. And the way that I do it, because I get that. I was there. I wasn't going to get results until I knew how and that it worked. But people have clearly had hugely abundant lives and been very successful and happy and all that, and never even known what the law of attraction is. Couldn't care less about it, right? It just happens for them because their thinking isn't faulty, right? They know how to process things. They know how to have a vision. They know how to release things in the moment. And it's just because that's how they were raised. It just happens that way. But for the majority of us, we are not that lucky. We weren't raised in that type of environment. We've learned a lot of limitation, and we have to unlearn it if we're really going to realize our true potential.
I love that. So let's talk a second about where you're at right now with boundless living. And, one of the things that I really feel is important is what I call my daily non-negotiables. And those are setting the tone for the day in the morning. And, part of that for myself is automatically getting up and saying, it's going to be a great day, and, and I know that's airy fairy and playful and all that, but it works for me.
Yeah, it works.
And then the other thing is, affirmative prayer and meditation. Can you share with us, how you set the tone for your day and more about your program?
Sure. Well, in terms of the day, it's interesting that you should bring this up because this morning, my partner Lynn Rose and I were talking on FaceTime, and I was talking about the day I had ahead of me, and because there's a lot on my plate, and I was kind of feeling a little, like I felt like I really needed to manage my energy today, and we just kind of made the agreement that we're just going to laugh through the day, whenever anything comes up, and if we start to feel a pull of stress, we're going to text to each other, ha 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 ha.
I love it.
So that sets the intention for the day. So no matter what comes my way, I get to say ha 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 ha, right? So that kind of stuff. So I do that. I do a lot of meditating. I think, it's really been like the past 3 years or so that I've really recommitted to meditating in a variety of ways. Sometimes just my own in my head. Sometimes pre-recorded from somebody else. Whatever it is. But getting into that quiet space and getting present and all that is super, super important for me. And it's also great for, sorry, the dog was making a mysterious noise. It's just good for you in general. Obviously there's so many health related benefits for meditation. So just to manage energy and stress and things like that. So, yep. I mean, I share that same practice, and also every now and then I will do sort of a reset on my vision, kind of check in. I'll just sit down and open up a blank document on Word or whatever and just start typing a vision away, excuse me, and that's always fun. It's always good. It's a nice reset. And sometimes I realize, wow, I really kind of got too busy over here, or I got it reminds me of where I'm kind of off track. So that's a good habit to do. So my program is, the main program is, I have lots of stuff out there, meditations and various programs, but the main one is the Wealth Beyond Reason program. That's the curriculum for the law of attraction. And it's grown. It's huge now over the course of time, lots of interviews, lots of lots of recorded stuff and ebooks and things like that in there. But it's really meant to take a person who's willing to learn from absolutely no knowledge to hopefully mastery, right? And then we also offer coaching. I just spent the last year certifying a whole group of coaches who are amazing and can duplicate, my education, the way I talk about the law of attraction and all of that to provide coaching, because I really believe that for like I resisted personal coaching for a long time, figuring, well, I know this stuff, I don't need a coach. Well, that's craziness, because since I started using coaches for myself in various areas, I mean, it's just no question. Everyone's going to get to a point where they're going to be able to do on their own what they're going to be able to do, because they can't see what they can't see, right? But a coach can come in and see things that you can't, identify areas that you've got resistance in, and help you through those and help you grow your vision and all of that. So anybody who's really serious about great success in their life, I think is eventually going to land on coaching, and that's so that's part of our offering too. But we also have a ton of free stuff out there. If you go to boundlessliving.com, just boundlessliving.com, there's a meditation you can download for free with some release techniques in there. There's links to all sorts of free YouTube content. I mean, lots of it. And how to follow me on Blab and Periscope and all that. Because I do these 3 times a week at least. And sometimes other than that, I think this Periscope and Blab have just changed my enthusiasm for the work that I do in huge ways, because of this personal interaction, and real relationships that aren't based in just email, which nobody likes getting anyway. It's kind of an unnecessary evil, or a necessary evil in our industry to an extent, at least right now, because you got to communicate somehow with these people and let them know what you're doing and where you're going to be and all that. So email is a part of it. But this is so much more fun and satisfying, because I get to really be me. They get to see all aspects of my life and my personality. Lynn will walk by. I'll be holding the dog. I'll play the ukulele, whatever it is, and I think that it just makes everybody more real, and the relationships are more real. So it feels a lot less like I'm running a business, and I can really feel the impact, and I get impact from the response, the real-time response and the feedback and the new relationships. I just feel like everybody who I've come into connection with since doing Periscope and Blabs, the relationships are so much stronger than people who are just simply, on my email list or whatever. They come back voluntarily, right, to listen to the scope. You just can't beat it.
I love that you pointed that out, because that's really been the exact same thing for me. I love being myself, and that's really been what my journey has been about, because obviously coming from the pro bodybuilding and fitness industry, it was all about that, idea of perfectionism. Yeah. And that's really how, my near-death experience happened, as a result of trying to meet up to other people's opinions around who I needed to be.
Yeah.
And I thought that, if I could just be good enough, then I would receive love and affection. And what this has really done for me is allowed me, just like you, to create my own little reality TV show.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And be silly, be over the top silly, because, one of the things one of my ministers, Reverend Nancy Woods, always says, who resonates with you and who is ready to hear what you have to say will literally receive it. They're ready for it.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to do.
Yeah. And that's really, really freeing, to be able to just know that you get to be real and not worrying about pleasing everybody or making people uncomfortable. I mean, because believe me, I felt like I went through years of just being super generic. I mean, after The Secret, I just got wedged into this Bob Doyle from The Secret thing. And it was like all that people expected from me. And so it was like around 2010, I started really fighting that to some extent, and like putting a bunch of YouTube videos up of me playing the ukulele and just being, showing other aspects of me. Like, yes, I teach the law of attraction, and I love music, and I like to take pictures, and I love puppies, and all of those are the things to be able to make the relationship more real, and try to do that via email. And doesn't work nearly as well as all this really cool, fun social media stuff that's happening.
I know, it's funny, because I was literally watching your little thing on Facebook yesterday where you had the acapella app or whatever.
Oh, that thing's gonna just suck hours out of my life.
Oh my God, it was so funny, but so good.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's fun. I feel like that's one of those things that I love. All those apps, like Dub Smash is another one, and it's just silly. But the thing with acapella is you're really singing, right? You're not lip syncing with somebody, so it's challenging me to put that part of myself out there, which I've historically been fairly uncomfortable with until I started playing the ukulele. But it's a nice challenge, and now I just want to do more complex ones and get really good at it and all that other stuff. So it just adds another layer of me being able to express myself out in the world, which I think that's the juice, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And while I have loved talking and teaching the law of attraction for all this time, there were definitely parts of me that were screaming to be expressed that I wasn't expressing. And so, you know, the internet has definitely allowed me to do that through this and YouTube and other things. And I really super encourage other people to do the same thing. Like everybody who, you know, has an idea or a message should Periscope, you know, just start, get it out there and get comfortable and get relationships and it's the validation you get from the people who you attract. You know, again, you're not going to please everybody, but you're going to get your tribe, and it's going to give you validation that, hey, my ideas are worth something. I'm having an impact. It's fun to talk about these things. And that's when major changes and transformation can happen for you, when you start playing the game out there where people can actually see it.
You know, and that's so true, because that's exactly what I'm experiencing. In the beginning, I was like, okay, I got to schedule this, you know, kind of into that whole, you know, staying in the box, and I got to schedule this. I'm going to talk on this subject and da, 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 da. And then, just like you said, I just started getting out there. The other thing, I don't know if you're doing, but I've done is I've gotten onto these scope-a-thons, you know, where I'm involved in a scope-a-thon with people, and we talk on a particular topic, and then we totally, you know, support each other. So we go through all of that and support each other, and it's freaking fun. There's so much high energy.
Yeah, that stuff is fun. I haven't done one of those a-thons yet, but I've seen them happen, and I love what's happening with the communities, and the Periscope community is awesome. And when you can go to a place where they all get together, whether it's a summit or we've had meetups here, you know, in LA, and it's just always so great. It's weird at first because everybody's looking at their phone, you know, Periscope, I'm here at the thing. And then eventually actual conversations take place. But it's really cool to connect with those people who, because it's such an intimate medium, you know, it's like you're right in their face most of the time. And people are super, super real. And so again, it's when you meet somebody in person, you really do feel like you know them, and you can talk to them right away.
You know, what's hilarious about what I do is I can't see up close. So I'm on the Periscope phone, and I'm getting right up here at the screen so I can see what they're saying.
I have to wear readers. It's a big joke. If I come to a Periscope without my readers, I can't read the comments. And it's just, you know, I actually bought readers because of Periscope. So I got the same issue.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, listen, I just wanted to thank you so much, Bob, for, you know, and just coming on Whole Life Living TV show today, and just sharing, you know, the awesomeness that you are with all of us, and, you know, sharing the real you.
Thank you very much. I love doing this stuff. I love jumping on Blabs. This is truly one of my favorite platforms. I mean, I love Periscope for what it is. But when it's this type of thing, a conversation and bringing other people, interviews, I just think it blows the doors off of everything else.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And that's why I moved my radio show over to Blab, you know, because I was, you know, fortunate enough to, you know, interview Dr. John DeMartini on my radio show, and, you know, Bob Proctor and stuff like that. And you know, and I didn't mention to you that I know Robin, your sister. So.
Wait, my sister is Deborah.
Or Deborah. Is it Deborah?
Deborah.
Okay. So years ago, I had connected with Deborah. I think it was in 2003. And I think it was because I was searching to find you on didn't you have what was a book that you very first put out in the beginning?
Well, the first book I put out was Wealth Beyond Reason. That was like 2004, whatever.
Okay, so after that, and I was searching to get a hold of you because I had thought, okay, it's time to meet him, and that never transpired. And so the beauty of it is here we are, because I was doing a meditation and your name came up. So I knew that it was ready. It was time.
That's awesome. I'm glad our paths crossed too, because I know we've been Facebook connected for a really long time, but I don't think we've ever really exchanged anything. And that's, I'm enjoying that about this too, because I am connecting with a lot of people who I've just sort of seen on my news feed, right? So it's just a lot of fun, just making the world a little smaller.
Well, thank you again for joining in with us today on Whole Life Living TV show. Once again, you can go to Bob's website, boundlessliving.com. And if you want to hear more about Whole Life Living, please visit wholelifeliving.com. bob.doyle.com. I also have a free gift for you there. It is a book called Setting the Tone for the Day, the Happiness Handbook. And it really sets the tone for creating those habits that Bob and I have been talking about here. Once again, please subscribe next week for my show. I will be interviewing Dr. Jeff Rosenberg. He is a chiropractor and will be sharing amazing ways to stay healthy and support your life. So thank you again, Bob, and thank you everyone for joining. Have a wonderful day.